And pass me a saber, please.
There you go.
Thank you. What is your name?
Mendy Werner. Mendy Werner.
Probably Lubavitch. Mendy
Yeah.
It's not Irish.
She's been here before.
I've been there before.
Long time ago. Long time ago.
We're looking for the place.
People was waiting, some people left. Took by the
Just make it up.
Okay. Take water. Okay. Before we start, just start off a short word. Something to do with this week's Pasha and last week's Pasha. There was yesterday learning the Maisa of Hagar and Ishmael. Trying to understand what was this whole thing. It says that Sarah told Avram Avinu to take in Hagar. Take Hagar. It says Vayishma Avram kill Sarah.
אולי ייבנה ממנה.
אולי ייבנה ממנה. Vayishma Hashem l'koil Sarah. And Rashi explains what's Vayishma Hashem l'koil Sarah. That Avram realized, sensed that in Sarah's words were Al Pi Ruach HaKodesh. Sarah's words were Al Pi Ruach HaKodesh. Meaning that Avram took in Hagar and had a Yishmael, that was the Ruach HaKodesh made that should happen. Now, afterwards, it says that when Hagar she got pregnant, she started to not be so sensitive to Sarah. She wasn't till then she was very bottled to her master. Yeah. Then afterwards she started to feel like a balabuste. So it says, so now Sarah gets very upset at Avram. He said that I gave you my shivcha for you, and she started acting up.
I'm a boss.
So Avram now, Chayre, could ask a question. Chayre, Sarah Yimenu, Sarah was the one who told Avram to take him Hagar. Avram should have answered her. What do I mean? You told me to take her. It's not my problem. What do we see? What did Avram answer? Avram doesn't answer Sarah. He says, you know what? You're right. Take your, here's, do whatever you want. Here's the kasha. Avram could have answered Sarah. Why did Avram Avinu have to make this whole thing? Why Avram Avinu, instead of answering her, he said, what did he say? He said that you're right. What's the chat over here? So if we look in this week's Pasha, we see last week's Pasha, it's also last week's Pasha, but I think we see very clear this week's Pasha that when Sarah saw that Ishmael wasn't acting proper together with Yitzchak, so Sarah says, Gorish as ben ha'ama hazis. Sarah doesn't call him Gorish as bincha. Sarah calls him Gorish as ben ha'ama hazis. It's number one. Number two, when Avram Avinu was very sad that Ishmael, that was very sad about Ishmael, that Ishmael, started to do Avedis. Avram Avinu was very sad. So the Eibishter tells Avram Avinu, Al Yeda Beinach Al Anar, she doesn't call him Bincha. Eibishter calls him Anar, Al Anar, on the child, not your child. Al Hanar V'Alamaseh. Oh. Number one. Number two, afterward, when it says when Hashem says to Hashem tells Avram, the Gam is Ben Ha'am L'Goya Simenu Ki Zarachahu. Hashem doesn't call Yishmael Bincha. Hashem calls him as Ben Ha'am. Ben Ha'am. You find the whole time that Yishmael is always called the Ben Ha'am. He's not called the Ben Avram. He's called the Ben Ha'am. What's the pshat? So I'm sure with you, I should word in the Chaim. Chaim says, he explains this, he gives a moededike clarity, the whole sugi of Yishmael. There's a halacha, it says that whenever you're meshachred, a person has a eved. Now, eved knaim is eved divri. Is eved knaim. Eved divri is that when someone has a yid, when someone buys a yid or an eved. Eved knaini is that when he buys someone not a yid. Eved knaini is like a halba ger, shtickle ger, but not a ger. When you're meshachrer, meaning when you set free a eved knaini, that's when he comes a full ger. That's when his ger is finishes. So because the eved knaini is not a full ger, that's why eved knaini is not allowed to marry, not an abasi sabas chayr, not allowed to marry a regular Israelis. Only after when they free him is he allowed to marry a bas chayr. Chayr means a regular Israel. So the halacha is that hameshachrer avdoi, hamasi avdoi lebas chayr. You make a shidduch of you marry off your eved, it's a bas chayr. What's the halacha? The halacha is yotza lechetz. Why? The halacha is that he goes free. Why does he go free? Because obviously that the master is not going to marry him off to bas chayr if he didn't make him send him free. So if he's marrying him off to bas chayr, is that he's free? That's the halacha. The Gemara says in Gittin that if you marry off your eved to bas chayr, the halacha is that we know we understand from here that yotz lechetz. Now let's go into Avram Avinu's mind. Avram Avinu is the heilige Avram Avinu, the heilige Zayda Avram. Avram Avinu didn't think that marrying a shivcha, a Amma, is a thing which is for him. Avram Avinu should marry the Amma, should marry a Amma, should marry a shivcha. So Avram Avinu, what did Avram Avinu think? When Sarah was giving Hagar to Avram thought that the pshat that she set him free. She was meshacher him. She set her free. So now Hagar is not a shivcha knainis. Hagar is a regular bas chayr. So because she's a bas chayr, and that's why Bateka Gvir today now. Why Bateka Gvir today now? Why did she stop respecting her master, which was Sarah? She was the shivcha of Sarah, because she thought she will. Well, let's give an akdama before. Hagar was really the shivcha of Sarah, wasn't the shivcha of Avram. Not going to get into the whole discussion. She's called a shivchas meloig. Not going to get into the whole discussion. It's a halach discussion. But the gather of Hagar she was considered shivchas Sarah the whole time. The Torah refers to her as the shivcha of Sarah. Meaning Sarah was her master. Because Hagar thought that she was set for free, so Sarah is not her master anymore. That's why Batekel Gvirta. Sarah, and Sarah says that no. What's the reason why Amasi, if you marry off your Eved to Bas Chayri, Allah is Yatza Lecheres? Because we calculate that this is what he thought. He obviously wouldn't give a shivcha, can't marry off a shivcha to Bas Chayri. I'm sorry, a Eved to Bas Chayri. So that's why we say that he probably let him to go for free. Sora says that when I gave you Hagar, I lechatchila made how did I give it to you? I said clearly, Hini amosi, anochi nisati shivchosi. I'm giving you my shivcha. What is that saying that I'm giving you my shivcha? That even when I'm giving her to you, she stole my shivcha. If she stole my shivcha, so I didn't send her for free. I made a tanai. I made a clear tanai that even when I'm giving her over to you, she still didn't give my shivcha. Now, why did this happen? So why would a Sarah want to give Avram Avinu that Avram Avinu should marry a shivcha, not a baschoir? So here the Chaim explains al pi Kabbalah that Avram before the birth of Yitzchak was kedusha. Before the birth of Yitzchak, there had to be everything that is toiv and ra, and even Avram Avinu was the toiv, but Avram Avinu was the toiv, the kedusha, but he still had to let it out some extra psoilus that he had in himself. So by giving birth to Yishmael, if Hagar would have been a bas chayrin, so that psoilus wouldn't go out specifically by Hagar, because why is Hagar any better than Sarah? Sarah is a bas chayrin, and Hagar is a bas chayrin. Therefore, Hagar had to stay of shivcha knainis. Like this, what came out to Avram and to Sarah was the psoilus of Avram, and now what's ever left in Avram is the kedusha, which that's going to come out in Yitzchak. But for whatever reason, that was the hashgacha, that was the kavana, that Hagar specifically had to stay a shivcha. She wasn't supposed to come a baschay. When Avram heard that, Avram heard, you made a t'nai that she's not going to come a baschay and she's going to stay a shivcha. So if so, hine amasech, here so she's your shivcha. She's your shivcha. So you can. Now what's the halacha? When the person has kids from a shivcha, those kids are considered avodim, aren't considered his children. They're considered avodim. Someone chad v'shalom marries, let's see, a ben chayv marries a shivcha. The kids from that shivcha are considered avodim. The Chaim says that Pasha Nei Yishmael explains how Yishmael al pi halacha has a din of a evet to Yitzchak. So this gives a Mendy a clarity. That's why we never call him the son of Avram. In this week's Pasha, we call him Manar, we call him Ben Ha'ama. He's not called the son of Avram because Hagar stayed a Shivcha. Hagar stayed Shivcha Sarah. Memela, the child that was born from them, wasn't the Ben Avram. He's considered the Ben Ha'ama. He's considered an Eved. He's considered the Ben Ha'ama and Avad, the Eved who belongs to Avram and belongs to Yitzchak. That's just a word last week in this expansion.
So how come Hashem told Avram, but Yishmael, he's going to make him a big nation. He's a Eved.
Right, yeah, it's a good question. Obviously, because even though he's an Eved, but he's an Eved that came from Avram, so Avram had a feeling for him. But the truth is that his status, what he was really a guy of a ben shippa. Yeah, it's a good question. It's a very good question. But at least it gives us to understand why upon him there was a need for the latest of Yishmael. Why did Yishmael just caused us tzaras? What was there a need?
Suffering till today.
Yeah, we're suffering from Yishmael today. Why was there a need for Yishmael? And number two, how even after Yishmael was born from Avram, the status of Yishmael is not considered the Ben Avram, it's considered the Ben Am. Let's go a little bit in the halachas. I want to discuss today the halachas of there are things in davening that have to be specifically done with the minyan. There's number one, there's the halacha that there's any davar shebekdusha has to be done b'asor. It says v'nikdashti b'seich b'nei Yisrael. V'nikdashti b'seich b'nei Yisrael. We have a gzeira shava that b'seich b'nei Yisrael means 10. So from there we learn that every davar shebekdusha has to be 10. If you want, you could open up the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch, Chelik Aleph, some more Chelik Aleph over there on the shelf. It's Seif Beis. Simen Nun Hey, Simen Nun Hey, Seif Beis. So the Alter Rebbe says, Alter Rebbe writes, Kol davar shebekdusha. Say again, Simen Nun Hey, 55, Siv Bey. Says the Alter Rebbe, Kol davar shebekdusha. Everything that is has kedusha in it, meaning we're kaddish, we kaddish the Eibishter with it. You going kaddish ubarchu kedusha. There we mention that ein umrim bepachis me'asara. You don't say less with less than 10, meaning you have to have a minyan. Shenemar, as it says, v'niktashti b'seich b'nei Yisrael. It says, v'niktashti, I'm going to come holy, I'm going to have a kedusha, where b'seich b'nei Yisrael. Now we see that there's a Gzeda Shavu, we're going to learn out from a Gzeda Shavu that Toich is Eida. And a Eida is 10. Let's see, it says, L'halon nemar, ki badlu, mi Toich ha'Eida. So we see that Eida and Toich is the same thing. Now, the maiden Gzeda Shavu, Toich Toich. Ma Toich amar l'halon, when it says, ki badlu mi Toich ha'Eida means Eida. Af Toich, when it says, v'nigdashti b'Toich b'nei Yisrael ha'amar kan Eida. So now we know that when it says v'nikdashti b'seich b'nei Yisrael, that's an 8. Now, what is Eida? Is Eida 10? Is Eida 20? Is Eida 50? How do we know that an Eida is 10? So it says like this. It says it says the Alter Rebbe writes this. Ein Eida chusa me'asara. A Eida is not less than 10. Shenemar ad masai la'Eida hara hazes. Says that when it's talking about the meraglim. How many meraglim were there? 12 meraglim. Each shevet, Ephraim and Menashe excluding Levi, there was 12. Now, Yeshua and Kalev weren't part of the Chet meraglim. So how many meraglim were left over? 10. So when the pasuk says Al Masih La'Eida Hara Azais, we're excluding Yeshua and Kalev.
It's a 10.
So it means that it's 10. So from here we learn that Eida has to be 10. Okay. And Alter Rebbe just concludes this Eida of 10 has to be all men b'nei chodim, meaning that they're not avodim. Gedolim, that they're over by mitzvah sheviu beisaris, that a gadol is even if someone is 13 years old, but it doesn't have the shtei sidis, doesn't have the simon, so it doesn't have a din of a gadol. So it has to be a gadol, which is over 13, and he has shtei sidis. He has 2 years. Okay, so here Akapana we know that every davar shebekdusha has to be the teichasa. What if you start a davar shebekdusha and the middle, you have a minyan, in the middle a guy goes out. So now you're middle of Kaddish. You start a Kaddish with 10. And now you only have 9. So what are you supposed to do? Or, better question, you're middle of Chazar Sashatz. Middle of Chazar Sashatz, then one person leaves the room. You have a minyan etzumtzum, meaning you have exactly 10 people. Then in the middle, one guy leaves.
Kriya Satar?
Kriya Satar, the same thing. So the question is, what is the halach? Could you continue Kaddish or Chazar Sashatz? Or you have to stop. So he says, so the Alter Rebbe writes over here in Siv Gim. Im hischil loymar Kaddish oy kedusha b'asara. If you start to say Kaddish or kedusha with them, v'yatzu miktsasam. So what's the halacha? Goimrin oysay ha-Kaddish oysay ha-kedusha shehischil. Meaning like this. If I'm in a minyan, the minyan is up to Yishtabach, start Kaddish, and in the middle of Kaddish, one guy leaves. What's the halacha? You finish the Kaddish, because you started the Kaddish with them, so even though now you only have 9, but you still continue on with the Kaddish. But only that Kaddish, meaning I'm only allowed to finish only the Kaddish only the thing that I was in the middle of. However, now that I only have 9, I'm not allowed to now do Chazar Sashatz. What? Baruch Hu is l'chayra hemshech of Kaddish. So look, yeah. The Pashtus is the Hemshech of Kaddish, like you do Baruch. So, for example, over here, if they left the middle of Kaddish, I can continue Kaddish, but I can't do Chazar. I can't do Chazar Hashatz. I can't do Kedushin Chazar Hashatz. But here, the Alter Rebbe gives also another Tanakh. So when do we say that even if some people leave, you could still if you're in the middle of the Kaddish, you could finish the Kaddish? That's only that Roiv of the Minyan is there. Let's say, for example, I'm saying Kaddish, and let's say 2 people leave. So there's 8 people left. So there, because it's Roiv of the Minyan is still there, so therefore you're allowed to continue. However, if you have, let's say you have 5 people, so now you don't have Roiv. Because you don't have Roiv, so you can't continue. So this halacha of leaving when you leave in the middle of something you're allowed to continue is only when you have a Roiv of the Minyan, meaning majority of the Minyan is still there. The majority of the Minyan is already not there anymore. If you don't have the you don't have Roiv of a Minyan, so the halacha is that you can't continue.
So you don't have to have only 9. If you have 6,
You have,
you have 10 and 4 left. It's the same thing. Same halacha.
Yes. Now it could be that there's such a thing called Roiv Nikir. Now, Roiv Nikir means that you have this Roiv where it's just borderline. It just crossed the border of and made it Roiv. Then you have Roiv Nikir. Roiv Nikir means that it's you can
80%,
see
80%.
Yeah. So it could be, and I'm not clear in this, it could be that in this situation, sometimes we rely on Roiv, sometimes we need to have a Roiv Nikir. And I'm not clear exactly. You check it up. Sometimes we need to have Roiv, and sometimes we need to have Roiv Nikir. But for sure, if you have 3 people leave, so you have 7. 7 is considered Roiv Nikir. 7 people are there, then you could continue the Kaddish the Kedusha. But only continue the Kaddish, can't go to Shmei Nasr.
You can start the Kaddish with Roiv Nikir?
What?
You can start Kaddish with Kedusha?
No. You can't start. You have to start with 10.
You're already in the middle.
If you're already in the middle and some people leave, you can continue. But then here the Alter Rebbe writes that even though you could still continue the Kaddish, someone's going to say, okay, let's say, for example, you have exactly 10 people. And what happens is, in the middle of Shmei Nasrei, middle of Chazaras Hashatz, what happens? The guy, in the middle of Chazaras Hashatz, the guy leaves. I'm sorry, middle of Chazaras Hashatz, the guy says, oh, I need to run to an appointment. But there's only 10. I need it for a Minyan, but okay. But really, we started Chazaras Hashatz already, so we didn't need to have 10. So I can really leave, and you'll have 9. You can still continue Chazaras Hashatz. The Rebbe says that no, that's in the Chatchil, you're not allowed to do. It's an Aveda, you're not allowed to leave when there is a Minyan, and there's exactly a Minyan, and you're the 10th, you're not allowed to leave in the middle of the Minyan. If the word is only that if b'diavad, if it happened already, then okay, it happened, you can continue. The Chatchila, a tenth is not allowed to leave the Minyan. If he's the 10th person, he's not allowed to leave the Minyan. This is what the Rebbe says, and you're not allowed to leave. Those who leave Hashem, Yichlu will perish, whatever.
We have situation here sometime in Shul, like today. We didn't have it. We are 9 people. We are waiting for 10. A guy come, we called somebody from outside, be the 10, we say Kaddish, and then the guy leave.
Right.
He told us in advance, I'm rushing to school, or I'm at private. What we do then?
So that
We have
could
to
be.
continue.
So that could be.
That
could. Right.
No, he's saying Kaddish with us, and then he leave.
Right.
So we continue davening with 9 people till the 10 come.
Right. So your question is about the person, is he actually allowed to leave?
We he tell us, I'm just saying for the Kaddish, I have to leave. I'm going to school, I'm going to work.
So what's the question now?
We're saying we'll continue davening with 9.
No.
Okay.
So you have to, so by Yishtabach, you have to get another 10th.
Of course, we do it.
Yeah,
but
okay.
This is a situation that occurred all the time.
Yes. It's a very, very common situation. It happens all the time. Yes.
It's funny, I'm sorry. Usually he is the 10, he's a professor in Torah college. He come to take coffee, we need him at the 10 to say Kaddish, and then he left. He had to teach.
Right.
He just came now.
Right. But here the Alter Rebbe said that this is only when there's no 10 left over. if there's 10 left, meaning the problem of leaving in the middle of a davar shebekdusha is only when there's no 10 left over. If I'm going to leave, it's going to be less than 10. However, if this is already police, even when I'm going to leave, let's say there's 11 people in shul. When I'm going to leave in the middle of Kaddish, there's still going to be another 10. So then there's no issue, there's no problem, there's no issue of it.
So the pasuk Los Hashem Yichalu wouldn't apply as a separate thing if there are 11 people, one person leaves the davar shebekdusha.
Yeah, no, that's not a problem. The problem
it's
is
not
only
a separate problem. It's not an inherent problem that if you're part of a minyan and you leave, just stamazay that.
no. The word is that if you're the 10th,
yes,
and you leave in the middle of a davar shebekdusha, if
Yeah.
you're not the 10th, meaning if there's another few people besides for you who are going to be mashal in the minyan, that's not a problem of you leaving in the middle of Kaddish.
yeah.
Now, here's the question: what if, when it comes to a minyan, let's say 6 people are davening, and the rest of the minyan is davening. So, let's say, for example, like this: if 6 people are, let's say you have a minyan, 10 people. 3 of those 10 people are middle of Shemoneh Esrei. So now, you're not even having 10 people to answer. There are 10 people in the room, but only 7 out of these 10 people are answering, or 6,
Really,
because the chazan is the 10th. But only 6 out of the 10 people are answering. So the question is, are you allowed to say Kaddish when you're not going to have all 10 people answering, or you have to have, besides for 6 mispalalim, 6 people davening with you, you have to have all 10 to answer Kaddish. So let's look over here in Sivzan. There's going to be a difference over here whether if it's Kaddish, Kedusha, and Baruch, if it's Kaddish and Baruch, or Chazar Sashatz. There's a fundamental difference between Kaddish and Kaddish Baruch and Chazar Sashatz in this part. Let's see over here Sivzan. Simenon Hey Sivzan. Says the Alter Rebbe, if I have a minyan of 10 people, and one of these 10 people, he started to daven Shemoneh Esrei himself, he cannot answer together with the Tzibur Kaddish. So I have exactly 10 people, but only have 8 people. With the Shliach Tzibur, I only have 8 people to answer, because the 9th is daven Shemoneh Esrei. So what's that halacha? Avo became mitzaref imo. He's allowed to. He is mitzaref together with the tzibur, and they could say kaddish and baruch. Huadin lebeiz gimel idalo. Kol shenisher haroiv she'oinem on. If roiv of the minyan, meaning if 6 or maybe even 5 out of the tests, the tisha oinem, are able to answer Amen. So the halacha is that because you have roiv of the minyan, you can answer Amen, you can say Amen. That's what it says. Einaniyas hamiyut makteves. This that the miyut, the minority, can't answer. It's not ma'akib. Why? She'inamiras davar shebekdusha biyud talib yos. Why do you need to have a minyan? Not because you don't need to have 10 people to answer. You need to have 10 people to rak sheyusham. Shenema v'nikdashti b'seich b'nei Yisrael al kol asara shehei b'nei kedusha shechina b'seich b'nei Yisrael al kol asara shehei b'nei kedusha shechina shoyr alayim v'yechelem loymar davar shebekdusha kigoyin kaddish u'baruch kigoyin kaddish u'baruch. Meaning, as it, what's the need? What's the yisod of a minyan? The yisod of a minyan is not the people answering. It's not that you have 9 people to answer you. The yisod of a minyan is that when you have 10 people, whether they're answering, whether they're not answering. Therefore, even though you don't have all the 9 people of the minyan, all the 9 besides, we're saying 9, meaning besides the shliach tzibur. The shliach tzibur doesn't answer. So when you have exactly of a minyan, so you have only 9 people answering. So even though you don't have 9 people and you don't have tisha on him, but that's not the sort why you have to have a minyan is not, you don't need, the reason why you have to have a minyan by Kaddish is not because there's a din of Tisha Oinim. There's no din of Tisha Oinim by a Kaddish. There's a din that you have to have 10 people, you have to have a minyan of people in that room. When you have a minyan of people in that room, it's Shechina Shruya, and you could say Kaddish. But once you have 10 people, even if you don't have Tisha Oinim, but you have just the Reiv of a minyan that answers, you could say Kaddish. This is the din. Oh, this din is a din only when it comes to answering Amen. The din of Davar Shebekdush. However, Chazaras Hashatz, besides for saying Kedusha, there's another din of why you have to Chazal and Masakin to cook Chazaras Hashatz. Why Bechlal is there a need for Chazaras Hashatz? Everyone died in Shemina Esrei. Why did Chazal Masakin Chazaras Hashatz? So it's because Amol, in the days, not everyone were able to know the Nusach HaTfilah. They weren't to do them like as there is today. Everyone could just say the words. So you had people who didn't know how to daven. So you had to have the shliach. They would send a shliach. The tzibur would send a shliach to daven, and he would say the brachas out loud, and everyone would answer him. Right? And when everyone answers amen, they're yotze with the brach of the shliach tzibur. Therefore, we're a chazal masakin the takon of chazaras hashatz when you have 10, because 10 people, when you have enough of a rabbim, you have a tzibur of 10 people, so they're chazal we're masakin that the dear Chazal were masakin that the Chazal over Shemina Esrei for them, but the takana was that everyone you have to have Tisha Oinim. You have to have 9 people to answer, because there's a din of Tisha Oinim. So therefore, if I'm not going to have Tisha Oinim, if I'm not going to have 9 people who are answering Amring, even though I have 6. And I have 10 in the let's say I have 10 in the room. But 3 of them are davening Shemina Esrei, and the rest are answering Shemina Esrei. So the din of Davar Shebekdusha that I have, it's considered a minyan. It's considered that there's Shechina Shruya. But Shemina Esrei is not about just that you need to have a minyan by Shemina Esrei is not just because you have to have the Shechina Shruya. You have to have a Shemina Esrei. There's a din of Tisha Oinim. So if I'm not going to have Tisha Oinim, even though I have a minyan in the room, and I have a roiv of a minyan that are answering, but there's no Tisha Oinim, and maybe it's not good. Maybe it's no good. So by Shemina Esrei, there's a halacha that has to be Tisha Oinim. So that's why, whenever you do Chazaras Hashatz, you have to make sure it's not enough that you have 6 with you. You have to make sure you have 9 people answer. This is the Rabbi fears is. Kishashliach tzibur. I'm skipping a part of the brackets, so this because I want to see just the main nekuda. Kishashliach tzibur choizer atfila pam beis, meaning when the shliach tzibur davened already once, and now he wants to do Chazaras Hashatz. It's sort of lizoyer shiyutes shoymin ve'oinin amen acharo. If he's not going to have Tisha Oinim, it's going to be a Tzrach Levatala. Now, important halacha. When Chazal Masakin Chazaras Hashatz, why were Chazal Masakin? Let's go back before. Chazal Masakin Chazaras Hashatz in order for someone who doesn't know the brachas to be yotze from the brach of the Shliach Tzibur. How are you yotze from a bracha of the Shliach Tzibur? When you hear the bracha, you answer on me, you're yotze the bracha of the Shliach Tzibur. What if someone talks in the middle of the bracha? Let's go on the slide. Let's talk about Kiddush. Someone talks in the middle of Kiddush. Let's say Reuben wants to be Moitzi Shimon Kiddush. Now Shimon talks in the middle of Kiddush, but he answers Amen to the brachas. Is he Yotze? Could he be Yotze what? He answered Amen, but he spoke in the middle of Kiddush. The halacha is that he's not Yotze Kiddush. So if you want to be Yotze from a bracha that someone else is making, you have to hear the whole bracha, what he's saying. If you're talking in middle, you make a hefsek in middle, even though you answered them, you're not Yotze. So in this situation, Chazal were masaking that all the Tisha Oinim have to be that, even though could be even if they daven themselves already, but they want to be part of Chazaras Hashatz, they have to conduct ki'ilu. They have to conduct ki'ilu that conduct themselves ki'ilu that they're yotze from the bracha of the Shliach Tzibur, and if not, could be it's a bracha levatol. So if so, just like in order to be, what do we understand from this? That if in order for us to do Chazar Sashatz, we need to have 9 people who are acting ki'ilu they're yotze from the bracha of the Shliach Tzibur. So what does that mean? That they can't be when the Shliach Tzibur says a bracha, they can't be mafsik and saying, let's say they want to say Tillim. They're going to answer Amen, but they're going to say in the middle of each bracha, they're going to say Tillim. That's no good for Chazar Sashatz. That's not considered Tisha Oinim. To have Tisha Oinim, how do you do Tisha Oinim? You have to have that all the 9 people are listening to the brachas of the Shliach Tzibur. So Mamela comes out that when you want to count 9 people, so someone will say, yes, I'm going to say Tillim, I'm middle of davening, but I'll answer. That's no good for Chazar Sashatz. To have Chazar Sashatz, you have to have that all 9 people are listening and answering the bracha.
Can't be multi-focused, what they call multitask.
No, that doesn't work for Chazar Sashatz. Doesn't work for Chazar Sashatz. But we understand what we just to be making sure that we understand from over here is that there's 2 dinim in Tzibur. One din is that Tzibur creates a place that Shroas Hashchina. For that, you don't have to have Tisha Oinim. There's no din of Tisha Oinim. It just has to have 10 people. And for there, you have to have just Roiv of the people answering. It's one din. Din number 2 is that by comes to Chazar Sashatz, so Chazar Sashatz there's a din of Tisha Oinim. And Tisha Oinim is not just that I'm answering Baruch Hu, Baruch Shmo Yamin, but it means that I'm listening to the brachas, and I'm not mafsik with other things in the middle of the brachas. So to have Tisha Oinim,
Usually you are mastered by Baruch Hu, Baruch Shmo.
but you're not saying something in the middle of the bracha. Not saying something in the middle of the bracha. If you daven in the middle of the bracha, that's no good. Yeah, you're asking a very good question. When you say Baruch Hu, Baruch Shmo, that's automatically a hefsek in the middle of a bracha. Yeah, it's a very, very good question. Maybe there's a difference between when you say Baruch Hu, Baruch Shmo, not when the Chazan is saying. There's a difference between saying Tillim while the Chazan is saying the bracha and saying Baruch Hu, Baruch Shmo when the Chazan stops and lets you say Baruch Hu, Baruch Shmo. Yeah, it's good, it's a very good order. The Rebbe writes in Siman Kuf Chav Daled that for Tisha Oinim we need to have that all the 9 people are listening in the bracha of the Shliach Tzibur.
The bracha is like part of the bracha, not like considered part of the bracha.
Well, if it's considered part of the bracha, so then why when you're trying to be Yotze the bracha, you're not supposed to say Baruch Hu, Baruch Shmo? Let's say, for example, let's say by Sheva brachas, right? Yeah. You don't say Baruch Hu, Baruch Shmo because you have to be Yotze the bracha from them. You're not supposed to say Baruch Hu, Baruch Shmo. Kiddush, you don't say Baruch Hu, Baruch Shmo. Megillah, you don't say Baruch Hu, Baruch Shmo. So l'chayre, it's mashma that Baruch Hu, Baruch Shmo is a shtikl hefsek. So so if we have to be can't make a hefsek, how could we say Baruch Hu, Baruch Shmo? It's a very good question. Well, the this is the Rebbe Pasuk with the Eretz Tzibur Chav Daled.
We have on the Zoom?
Yeah.
Yash Koach, Yash Koach.
Yeah.
Thank you very